The government issued a new decree: families of girls who are 17 and unmarried or boys who are 20 and unwed will be punished. I had only 1 month left until my 17th birthday. Everyone assumed Fu Yang would come to marry me, but he unexpectedly got engaged to my cousin. He said, "My cousin will turn 17 in 7 days. She needs me more than you do. I'll marry her first to keep her safe, then come back to marry you." I nodded and smiled in agreement, then turned and went to the county office to register as a candidate for selection. After that our correspondence ceased. Spring Hills looked like ink, and the grass seemed like smoke. "Are you really going to enter the selection?" In the main hall, Magistrate Liu's eyes were sharp as a torch as he stared at me. I folded my hands over my chest and nodded lightly. His face darkened abruptly. "The palace is nothing like the outside world. Its rules are strict and punishments harsh. A selected woman is trapped in a tiny place for life. You're so young, why would you do such a thing?" Magistrate Liu was a rare upright official, living in poverty and never taking a penny from the people. Of course he did not want to see a blossoming girl imprisoned in the deep palace. But my situation was different. I had nowhere left to turn. On the county office roof, a flock of pigeons circled lazily, their clear calls echoing in the still air. I looked up, but my thoughts were not on the freedom I was about to lose. They were on my mother's pale, bloodless face. 3 years ago she fell ill with a strange disease, weakened all over, bedridden for years, any movement becoming torture in severe moments. We sought doctors everywhere to no avail until recently a court physician who had left the palace came to town, claiming to treat difficult illnesses. His prescriptions helped, but were expensive. Each dose cost 1 tael of silver, and to cure my mother would take at least 20 taels, almost 2 years of my father's wages if he neither ate nor drank. Over the years, trying to pay for my mother's treatment, our home had become utterly empty and impoverished. At that very time, the government issued that new decree: families of girls who are 17 and unmarried or boys who are 20 and unwed would be punished. I had only a month until 17. I shouldn't have worried, because Fu Yang, who grew up with me, would marry me. But yesterday someone quietly told me Fu Yang had become betrothed to Shu Jiao. I didn't believe it and hurried to find him. He admitted calmly, "My cousin will be 17 in 7 days. She needs me more than you do. I'll marry her first to keep her safe, then marry you afterward." Okay, my heart sank. Of course I wasn't pleased. But I knew the situation was urgent. Who among the common people dared defy the emperor's order? Should Fu Yang watch my cousin's family be punished? I was not one to stand by and let someone die. I did not blame him, and even felt vaguely that he was kind. Then I thought, if he was willing to marry my cousin to save her, he would surely lend me the 20 taels to treat my mother. So I spoke cautiously. "A Yang, my mother, this is such a small matter, just go home and tell him, I'm not refusing to marry you. There's still a month left." "What's the rush?" Before I finished, he cut me off sharply. Fu Yang's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were full of disappointment and reproach as he looked at me. I knew he had misunderstood. I grabbed his sleeve to explain, but he impatiently pushed me away. "Qingyu, stop making trouble. You're not even married yet and you're already so impatient. How does that look?" "No, shut up." That was the first time Fu Yang had ever scolded me. I stared at him in a daze. A buzzing filled my ears and I couldn't hear his words clearly, only remembering that I nodded absent-mindedly. When I came to, I found myself unconsciously standing by the bulletin board. Someone was loudly reading its contents. "The emperor is selecting palace-maid candidates. All who register, whether selected or not, will receive 20 taels of silver." I needed that money badly, so without much hesitation I hurried off to register with County Magistrate Liu. Coming back to my senses, I said firmly, "This woman has made up her mind. Please, sir, register me as soon as possible." Magistrate Liu was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Very well, if it's your own will, I'll help you." He had someone fetch the registry book to record my information, and he sent to the treasury for the silver. When he handed the money to me, his face was stern as he warned, "Having taken this silver, you must go to the capital to compete. Otherwise it will be the capital crime of exterminating 9 generations. I inclined my head slightly, took the heavy silver. thanked Magistrate Liu, and turned to leave, leaving the county office. I found myself on familiar streets, the vendors hawking, the creak of wagon wheels, and the chatter and laughter of passers-by braided together in lively noise. Such a scene would be hard to find inside the palace. Thinking this made me a little sad. My previously light steps grew heavy and slow, then a contemptuous voice sounded by my ear. "You must be Yi Qingyu." I paused slightly. The woman was already striding toward me. She wore a plain white silk dress with a pink peony cloak over it, appearing a delicate little beauty, but the way she looked me up and down was poisoned and unfriendly. I never make enemies, and almost instantly I guessed who she was. This must be Xu Jiaojiao, the cousin Fu Yang mentioned who needed him even more than I did. She grabbed my arm, her eyes full of hatred. "My cousin and I are of one mind. He's promised me a lifetime together. I advise you to hurry and marry some widower, or a month from now your whole family will be dragged off to be beheaded and left unburied." Saying that, she lifted her chin with a smug, provocative smile. I was infuriated. Fu Yang and I had been childhood sweethearts. The one he promised a lifetime to was me. That Xu Jiaojiao had snatched him away halfway was bad enough, but to viciously curse my parents, anger boiling up, I couldn't help pushing her hard. Xu Jiaojiao screamed and toppled backward. It was then that Fu Yang came over. He seemed like a god descending, scooped Xu Jiaojiao into his arms, and glared at me. "Yi Qingyu, what are you doing? Apologize to your cousin at once." I opened my mouth helplessly, about to tell what had just happened, but before I could speak Xu Jiaojiao hid her face and began to weep. "Cousin, Sister Qingyu must be angry because she thinks I stole you, but you know, I'll be 17 in a few days. If you won't help me, then my mother and I will be beheaded." She wept in a pitiful, tear-streaked way. Fu Yang, heartbroken, wiped her tears and soothed her softly. "Don't be afraid, I said I'll marry you, and I will, but, Sister Qingyu." Fu Yang's face turned cold, his gaze flicked over me with indifferent disdain. His voice flat as ice. "She's just a jealous woman who left someone to die. Why care about her?" Time seemed dragged into an ice age by Fu Yang's coldness. Everything turned hard and silent. I stood frozen, and in the sighing wind a stinging ache rose in my chest. When I learned yesterday that Fu Yang was to marry someone else, my heart had hurt once. Now my decision to leave was firm. I shouldn't trouble myself for an old love, but watching the one I'd cared for all these years unreservedly defend another girl kept gnawing at me. We grew up together. I couldn't believe there was no trace of me in his heart. Not wanting to lose him like this, I resolved to try one last time. Was nearly 17 years of affection worth 20 taels of silver? Gathering my courage, I spoke. "A Yang, my mother is ill. Can you lend me 20 taels of silver?" Fut! Xu Jiaojiao covered her mouth, stifling a laugh. "I just told you cousin gave me 20 taels to prepare my wedding clothes, and you want to take it away. Are you that afraid he'll marry me?" I froze. "When did you— Enough, Yi Qingyu. I really didn't expect you to be this sort of person. On the surface you agreed to let me marry your cousin, but in reality you sabotage it at every turn." Fu Yang cut me off, looking even more disappointed. But I genuinely didn't know he had given Xu Jiaojiao 20 taels. Wanting to avoid misunderstanding, I stepped forward in a fluster to explain. "A Yang, I truly didn't know." "Stop making excuses." Fu Yang angrily pushed me away. I fell awkwardly to the ground. The purse in my embrace fell out and clattered. I was startled and scrambled over to pick it up, but Fu Yang beat me to it. He opened the pouch and, seeing the silver inside, his expression suddenly darkened. "What is this? Didn't you just say you had no money?" I lowered my head in panic. The appearance of that ingot made me feel the embarrassment of a lie being exposed. Seeing my silence, Fu Yang grew impatient. "Not going to explain?" Xu Jiaojiao interjected opportunely. "Cousin, what are you asking? She just doesn't want you to marry me, she wants to watch me be executed." As she spoke, Xu Jiaojiao stamped her foot and began to cry again. Fu Yang hurriedly pulled her into his arms, and his gaze toward me was as cold as a winter wind. "Qingyu, you've become too malicious, using such tricks to drive a wedge between me and my cousin. If you don't apologize to Jiaojiao, then don't think I'll marry you." A surge of intense grievance welled up in my chest. I lifted my eyes and stared straight at Fu Yang, forcing out a hoarse, furious sound from the depths of my throat. I'm not wrong, and I don't need you to marry me. Fu Yang was stunned. As if a layer of frost had settled over his face, he hauled me up from the ground and demanded, "No need for me to marry you. Then who do you want to marry you? Our mutual affection is known all over the streets apart from me. Who else would want you?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth, my expression calm, my tone light. "None of your business." Fu Yang suddenly froze, staring straight at me. After a long moment, he ground out through clenched teeth, "Fine, Yi Qingyu. You're really something. You've even learned to play hard to get." I didn't. Enough. Fu Yang suddenly let go of my hand and interrupted me again. "You don't need to scheme like this. I will marry you and spare your entire family. But remember this, I just don't want to stand by and watch people die like you did." With that, he grabbed my hand again and dragged me into the tailor's shop next door. He was very strong. I couldn't break free and could only stumble along behind him. My shoulder slammed into the doorframe without warning, the pain making me gasp, but Fu Yang didn't even look back. His face cold as he pushed me toward a pile of fabric. "Hurry up and pick." I heard it, but I didn't move. Fu Yang's gaze swept over and fell on my trembling shoulders. He seemed to sense something, his eyes tightening slightly. "What's wrong with you?" Just then, Shu Jiaojiao let out a little wah, pointed at the bright red fabric, and said with a shy face, "Cousin Tilda, I want to use this fabric to make my wedding dress." The girl's shy gaze was like a flower in bud on a spring day. Fu Yang was enchanted and subconsciously reached for silver to pay, but that ingot of silver in his hand was mine. He was actually going to use the money for my mother's medical treatment to buy Shu Jiaojiao a wedding dress. I was so furious I ignored the pain in my body and lunged at him, roaring, "That's my money." Fu Yang reacted quickly, turning to the side to easily dodge me. Anxious, I reached out to scratch him. He stared at me for quite a while before speaking leisurely. "Pick the fabric for the wedding dress first. Once you've chosen, I'll give you the money back. I'll be entering the capital soon to compete in the selection of court ladies. There's no way I can marry Fu Yang, so I have no mind to pick wedding dress fabric, but right now, the silver is clutched tightly in his hand. I can only compromise anyway. I'm about to leave here soon. There's no point wasting time arguing with him." So she casually pointed at a piece of fabric. Fu Yang's gaze suddenly turned cold. "Yi Qingyu, are you doing this on purpose? I asked you to choose fabric for a wedding dress. Why did you pick purple?" "I don't want to argue. Since he doesn't like this one, I'll pick another." Then I raised my hand and pointed next door. "Let's go with this one, then." This time I chose a color similar to Shu Jiaojiao's. Hers is bright red, mine is apricot red. I thought Fu Yang would finally be able to pay me back this time, but instead, he brought up apologizing again. "Jiao Jiao is my cousin, and she's your cousin too. You really shouldn't have pushed her just now. For the sake of getting along in the future, apologize to her." I stared at Fu Yang in a daze, not understanding why he was so insistent on making me apologize, but I didn't want to keep entangling with them, so I lowered my head and apologized to Shu Jiaojiao. Fu Yang's expression finally eased, and he readily returned the silver to me. Then I heard Shu Jiaojiao let out a sneer, as if I had finally caught her slip up. I turned my head and looked at Fu Yang with anticipation. Would he make Shu Jiaojiao apologize to me too? But he just looked at me blankly. "What's wrong?" I snapped. "Fu Yang, are you deaf? Didn't you hear her mocking me just now?" Fu Yang froze for a moment, then sighed helplessly. Jiaojiao was just too excited. "Qingyu, don't be so aggressive." "So it's my fault again." My heart jolted with pain. I forced a bitter smile and shook my head. "Fu Yang, look, you've even thought up an excuse for her. But when I do the same thing, you demand that I apologize to her." Fu Yang's face went pale in an instant. He opened his mouth helplessly, as if wanting to explain, but he didn't know how to begin. I no longer wanted to listen. I glanced at him one last time, then turned and walked away without looking back. 5. The next afternoon, officials from the county Yamen came to notify me. The day to set off for the capital has been decided in just 5 days. Besides that news, they also sent over a set of clothes, saying they were the standardized attire the maidens had to wear. I was just about to take them when a familiar voice sounded in my ear. "Qingyu Jejie, the wedding dress is finished. Cousin was worried you might not like it, so he specially had me bring it over for you to see. It's Shu Jiajiao. She was carrying a package when she saw the county Yamen officials. I paused for a moment, a flicker of confusion crossing my eyes. When I spotted the clothes they had prepared for me, I looked even more bewildered. What is this? The Yamen runners were blunt and spoke promptly, immediately telling her that I was going to participate in the selection of maiden candidates. Upon hearing this, Shu Jiajiao laughed out loud with joy on the spot. I see, so that means you can't possibly marry your cousin. Now, I did not answer, and I ignored her directly. Shu Jiajiao was not upset either. After asking the guard to confirm the day I would set off, she casually threw the parcel onto the ground and left without looking back. The guard fumed. Who is this person, throwing things around like this? I lightly smiled. Don't pay attention to her, let her be. The Yachai shook his head, handed the clothes to me, glanced again at the parcel on the ground, then bent to pick it up and opened it in 2 or 3 quick motions. When his eyes fell on the pattern embroidered on the wedding dress, he tugged at the corner of his mouth. What kind of thing is this embroidered? Surely it's the plaything of a 3-year-old. I glanced. The pair of mandarin ducks meant to symbolize a loving couple growing old together had been embroidered as ordinary little chicks. Shu Jiaojiao's methods were, as always, childish, but it didn't matter anymore. After all, I wouldn't be wearing it after saying goodbye to the Yachai. I turned and went back into the room. Ever since my father and mother learned I was going to become a shunu, worry had always clouded their faces. They urged me to reconsider, but now the date to go to the capital was set and the matter couldn't be undone, so all they could do was nag and advise me. Qingyu, the palace isn't like the outside world. Remember to rein in your temper, be careful and cautious in everything, and above all don't offend any noble. I nodded over and over. Father, mother, don't worry, your daughter understands. Besides verbal admonitions, my parents had prepared gifts for me, all hometown specialties. After all, once I leave, who knows when I'll return. Besides, to us commoners the imperial palace is like a den of dragons and tigers. Many who go in never come out for the rest of their lives. When the government first announced the new regulation, there were still some people unhappy, but once they heard the emperor would be selecting palace women, they immediately changed their tune and thanked the new policy, rushing out into the streets overnight to hastily find grooms and marry off daughters, all in hopes of keeping their girls from the nightmare of entering the palace. Someone like me, eager to go, could not be found a second time in the entire Jiang city. So on the day we set off for the capital, there was only one carriage of maiden candidates, and it was mine. But for the sake of the imperial face, Magistrate Liu still arranged an escort. The long procession flowed like a brilliant red dragon, stretching for 10 miles. The sedan chair I sat in was exquisitely ornate, its body vermilion like fire. Behind it followed a group carrying wooden boxes, actually filled with hometown specialties my parents had prepared. But the boxes were so finely made that the carriers projected the air of bearing silks and brocades. Along the route firecrackers popped and gongs and drums sounded. The uninformed might have thought I was going to be married off. I, too, wore a bewildered expression. County Magistrate Liu never mentioned the bridal selection would be such a spectacle, did he? And because it was so ostentatious, villagers along the way stopped to watch and whispered about which family could be so extravagant in marrying off a daughter. But when they learned it was the sedan of a tribute maiden, their faces changed immediately and they snapped. What kind of family is so heartless as to let their daughter become one of those tribute girls who don't come back? I peered through the small window. Without exception, every face wore pity. Fortunately, I had steeled myself beforehand, so their reactions did not sway me. Whether a dragon's den or a tiger's lair, as long as it could save my mother, I would do anything. Pulling my gaze back, I sat up again, and the road ahead suddenly fell silent. After a while someone came to tell me our procession had collided with Fu Yang's wedding party. I almost forgot today was the day he was marrying Shu Jiaojiao. The road is only this wide, it simply can't hold 2 processions side by side. Fu Yang's side said the bride-taking procession must not retrace its steps, otherwise it would bring bad luck, so they wanted us to step back. The head of the guards didn't dare act on his own and ran to ask me whether we should yield. Thinking of the grievances I've endured recently, I smiled nastily. Yield, keep going. If they won't, we'll just step right over them, with my approval. The leader immediately, all swagger and fanfare, ordered the procession to press on, forcing Fu Yang to fall back again and again. Today he rode a tall horse and wore a festive red robe, full of vigor, but I made him look utterly ridiculous. Seeing this, people murmured among themselves, and Fu Yang's face went completely ashen. He didn't dare pick a fight with me. Only when my bridal sedan passed did he hiss a warning. The maiden has quite a temper. If you're chosen, that's one thing, but if you're rejected and come back, don't blame me for taking revenge for today. I couldn't hold back a cold laugh, and Fu Yang froze, instinctively reaching to lift the curtain. My heart jolted, and in an instant I was swept up in an indescribable struggle. I didn't want him to see me, yet I wanted to know what would happen if he did, but the guard beside him stopped him. Then the hastily arriving Xu Jiaojiao also caught his attention. Why are you here? Fu Yang frowned tightly, a bit displeased with Xu Jiaojiao's sudden appearance. She herself knew that a bride shouldn't run out at a time like this, but she had heard that the wedding procession had run into the entourage selecting palace maids, and was instantly so frightened that she threw all caution to the wind. Now she was flusteredly trying to explain. I heard the carriage couldn't get through, and I was worried we'd miss the auspicious hour, so I took it upon myself to come. Cousin, I'm sorry. Her delicate, lilting voice carried a faint trace of a sob again. It was all in full view. Of course Fu Yang couldn't bear to scold her. He tenderly lifted her in his arms, carefully placing her into the bridal sedan chair. The motion was so gentle, just like when he held me the year I fell from a tree at 10-7. Fu Yang and I grew up together, but my mother didn't like him very much. He usually wouldn't let me play with him because she felt boys roughhouse without knowing their own strength and was afraid I'd get hurt, until the year I turned 10, when I secretly climbed to the top of a tree and couldn't get down, crying non-stop. Mother was frantic under the tree, but she didn't know how to climb. I could only ask the neighbor, Fu Yang, to come save me. Later, he scampered up the tree like a little monkey and soothed me softly. Don't be afraid, I won't let you get hurt, trust me. When he said that, Fu Yang's eyes were sparkling, and I stopped crying on the spot. Then he taught me to step on his shoulders as a ladder and slowly move down, but I was too scared. As soon as my foot touched his thin, stiff shoulder, I trembled with fright and fell from the tree, my face going pale from the sudden pain. Mother immediately rushed over to pick me up, but the moment she touched me, I cried out, it hurts so much. Mother didn't dare to move again. In the end, it was Fu Yang who carefully avoided my wound, gritting his teeth as he staggered along and carried me to the physician's house. Later, we only found out when the physician told us that Fu Yang's hand had been dislocated. It turned out that when I fell, he jumped down after me, but accidentally stepped on a rock and broke his arm. But at that time, Mother only had eyes for me and didn't notice him at all, such a little child, and he actually kept enduring the pain without saying a word. Even carried me for such a long distance. When Father found out, he said the boy was a good child. Only then did Mother allow me to play with Fu Yang. We grew up together like this, slowly becoming the most important part of each other's lives. But now, that gentleness, Fu Yang has given it to someone else. He clearly said he was marrying Xu Jiaojiao only to save the lives of her whole family. But to save people, does it really have to go this far? I'm not an idiot. How could I not see that he really treats her differently? But none of this has anything to do with me anymore. I jolted out of my memories to find the sedan chair had already left the city. After many twists and turns, we were getting farther and farther from Jiangcheng. Those old people and past events were gradually covered by the passing scenery, no longer stirring any waves in my heart. I began to set my mind elsewhere. My head was full of questions about what the imperial palace was really like. Was it truly, as Magistrate Liu said, a lofty prison? What about the emperor? Is he really a little old man of 50 or 60? Very soon, these questions were answered. 3 days later, we arrived in the capital. The palace gates slowly opened, and a squad of guards emerged, leading us into the palace. I was taken to a room. The maid by my side told me that His Majesty would come over later. I was stunned. Isn't the selection process for choosing palace maids supposed to be very complicated? In the preliminary round, the head eunuch observes the candidate's physical features and appearance. Only those who pass can enter the reselection stage. Only the final winner gets to see the emperor. Why don't I have to go through all that? A strange feeling welled up in my chest. I couldn't quite say what it was until someone outside the door called out, "The emperor arrives." The atmosphere instantly turned solemn. I looked up in a panic, only to see a tall, slender figure. The young man was dressed in a golden dragon robe, his posture imposing, his features handsome and dignified, especially those eyes, like an autumn pond brimming with starlight. But I suddenly sprang to my feet, my voice rising sharply. "Why is it you?" It took me a long time to digest the fact that Xiao Xingjian is the emperor after all. In my impression, he was just a noble young master who didn't understand anything. I still remember that half a year ago, Magistrate Liu suddenly brought a sharp-browed, bright-eyed young man to find Fu Yang. He said this was his distant relative, who came to Jiangcheng to do business. As for what kind of business, he hadn't decided yet. Magistrate Liu was afraid he'd be swindled, so he asked Fu Yang, who ran a rice shop, to help at that time. Fu Yang and I were as close as Siamese twins. Wherever he was, I was there too, and that's how I met Xiao Xingjian, to help him find some businesses he might be interested in. Fu Yangtian and I wandered the streets like loafers, taking him everywhere, from the tailors at the head of the lane to the barbers at the end, asking around shop by shop about every trade. Xiao Xingjian was like a sheltered maiden who never left the house. He knew nothing. When he saw some novel little gadget, he would light up with joy and grin broadly, and insist on pulling people over to ask, "How is this made? If I go into this business, do I need to pay County Magistrate Liu extra money?" Now, thinking back carefully, I broke out in a cold sweat. He wasn't out to do business at all. It was clearly a covert inspection in plain clothes. Luckily, Magistrate Liu was an honest official who never took a single cent from the people. Otherwise he would have been stripped to his underwear. "Do you think I tricked you? Are you mad?" Xiao Xingjian suddenly shifted to sit beside me, his attractive brows knitting slightly. I shook my head frantically. No. Saying that, I quietly took a step back, seeing I was deliberately putting distance between us. Xiao Xingjian looked a little disappointed. "Can't we be like before?" I remembered the times I scared him with dead caterpillars. Only now I felt awkward. "But you are the emperor. I'm just an ordinary person." Xiao Xingjian's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. "No. You're not ordinary. You are my empress." Empress? I was taken aback, looking at him in surprise. Didn't I come to compete as a maiden for selection? How did I become the empress? Xiao Xingjian looked at me intently, then said helplessly, "You fool, the matchmaker was just an excuse. If not for that, how would you ever see what kind of person Fu Yang really is?" "Me?" Xiao Xingjian sighed and slowly began. "Remember that time we went door to door asking people what kind of shops the street still needed? When we passed your house, your mother suddenly had a bad coughing fit, and you stayed to take care of her." I remembered it really happened. Later Fu Yang was very unhappy. He cursed and told me, "Your mother's illness is a drain on money. She might as well have died sooner." I was astonished he could speak so heartlessly. He said your mother never liked him. If he didn't care for you, he never would have looked at that sickly woman. Those words were unsavory, but after all, it was your private matter and I, an outsider, shouldn't judge. Only later, seeing you filled with thoughts of Fu Yang, running around for him, I felt uneasy. Perhaps I felt sorry for you. Perhaps I thought you deserved someone better. In short, I decided to make you see Fu Yang's true face. But at first I was soft-hearted and gave Fu Yang some money, hoping he would use it to treat your mother. He did not. From then on I knew he was not to be trusted. Afterwards, I arranged for you to enter the selection of talented maidens. 9. I had no idea there was a story like this behind it. No wonder everything fell into place. I needed 20 taels of silver, and entering the selection could just get me 20 taels, not a coin more or less. No, I sharply caught another key point. That new doctor was arranged by you as well. Xiao Xingjian did not deny it. Imperial physician Chen has been in the palace for years. Treating some difficult ailments is nothing to him. I never imagined anyone would go this far for me. nor did I ever think that in Fu Yang's eyes my mother was a burden, so that's why he had been delaying marrying me all these years, probably afraid my mother would spend his money. If it weren't for Xiao Xingjian's plan to issue the new regulation, he likely wouldn't have married me even a month from now. Now this is fine too, he married my cousin. And I looked up at Xiao Xingjian, forcing out a smile that was uglier than crying. Thank you. But, don't worry, I won't force you, if you don't want to marry me. I can arrange for you not to be chosen, and you'll be free to marry whomever you like. As if afraid I'd say no, Xiao Xingjian hurriedly interrupted me. I was half laughing, half crying. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, give me some time, can we spend some time together first? Xiao Xingjian's eyes lit up, and he nodded eagerly. Actually, I'm happy I recognized a rotten person and met someone better. More importantly, I no longer have to worry about my mother's illness. Is there anything in the world happier than this? I don't think so, but Xiao Xingjian showed me with actions that even happier things awaited me. He issued an edict. I no longer had to follow the palace rules, the severe regulations, cruel punishments, and the palace rooms you could cross in a few steps that County Magistrate Liu had warned me about were no longer my concern. If I felt stifled, I could leave the palace at any time. If I missed home, I could return whenever I wished. Xiao Xingjian gave me freedom before I even became his empress, yet our relationship didn't suddenly grow close. It remained one-sidedly driven by him. Until the day of my birthday, I wanted to go home and celebrate with my parents. Xiao Xingjian agreed and even set aside all his duties to accompany me back to Jiangcheng. When the carriage entered the familiar alley, I could hardly wait to get out. Xiao Xingjian helplessly steadied me from behind, but once we entered, to my surprise we ran into Fu Yang and Xu Jiaojiao. We were both taken aback. Fu Yang reacted first, clasping my hand excitedly. Qingyu, you're finally back. Did you fail the selection? I heard that rejected maidens are free to marry. Your mother's illness is better now too, let's get married. I pulled my hand away in annoyance, wiped it on my clothes, and said coldly, don't pretend. What you really want is for my mother to die. Fu Yang's face went deathly pale. My mother, who had come out at the sound of voices, heard that and froze. I hurried over to support her and walked inside with her, but Fu Yang followed like a bad omen. Qingyu, you misunderstood me. I didn't know your mother truly needed 20 taels of silver. I thought you were jealous of your cousin and said that to stop me from marrying her, and I didn't actually marry my cousin. You can ask your mother. He hadn't married Xu Jiaojiao. Why? I looked to my mother, and she told me, just after I had left Jiangcheng, the authorities issued a new punishment. Any family whose daughters remained unmarried at 17 or whose sons remained unmarried at 20 had to sweep the streets with brooms. That was it. Such a mild punishment, there was no need for alarm, so Fu Yang naturally wouldn't go to the trouble of marrying Xu Jiaojiao over such a small thing, and he immediately called off the engagement. But by the time he'd settled matters and came to find me, I had already left Jiangcheng. Fu Yang belatedly remembered the jostling at the city gate. It turned out he hadn't just brushed past me but had even said harsh words to me. Frustration spread through him. He ran like mad to pursue me, risking his life, but it was too late. You can't outrun a horse. He slunk back humiliated. Later he thought of having my mother write to me, but my mother worried that would harm me and refused until today when I returned. It's a good thing you're back. He's been crazy these days, begging me to write you letters every day. My mother whispered in my ear. I snorted and told her not to care. If he bothers you again, sweep him out with a broom. I raised my voice on purpose. The footsteps behind us paused, then resumed. I cursed inwardly, shameless, but the shameless one was still behind us. As my mother led me to sit, Fu Yang actually sat down beside me, leaning deliberately toward me. I was so angry I sprang to my feet, glanced around, and suddenly realized I'd left Xiao Xingjian standing at the gate. I hurried out. Fu Yang immediately chased after me. Qingyu, where are you going? His words cut off. I returned arm in arm with Xiao Xingjian. Fu Yang froze, then understood with a snarl. So it's you. Xiao Xingjian wrapped his arm around my waist and gave a deep hum. Fu Yang didn't yet know he was the emperor. Enraged, he charged forward, and the guards behind him flashed their long swords. A shout of "Protect the sovereign" drained the color from Fu Yang's face. You are. He couldn't finish the sentence. The guards dragged him and Xu Jiao away. After that I spoke at length with my mother, and when my father came home, the three of us happily celebrated my birthday. No, the four of us. I had already agreed to be Xiao Xingjian's empress, and he happily twirled me around in the courtyard. It was just as the autumn wind rose and leaves fluttered down that we gazed at each other with deep feeling and slowly drew near. His lips, like falling leaves, gently covered mine, carrying the caress of a breeze and the warmth of sunlight. My heart seemed to ignite in that moment. Every cell in my body called out his name. Xiao Xingjian. I called, he replied softly. Together we fell into a deeper, tender entanglement, reluctant to awaken. A month later I left Jiang City in marriage, 10 miles of bridal splendor along the way. Elders and villagers stood by the road to congratulate us, drums and gongs clamoring, even livelier than the day I entered the selection. I sat upright in the carriage, receiving blessings from all sides, and among the throng I saw Fu Yang weeping bitterly. He knelt on the ground, beating his chest without cease. Xu Jiao urged him from the side, but he would not listen. Instead he struck her a hard slap and seemed to hiss, "Bitch, it's all your fault." I could not hear clearly, nor did I wish to, so I ordered the guards to drag him away quickly. "Do not dirty my path." The guards obeyed and acted at once. Before long, Fu Yang's figure vanished from my sight. From then on, all news fell silent. Spring hills like ink, grass like smoke.